Welcome back. Every year we invite representatives from the 20th Century Club to come in and talk about their annual event, and this year it's again it's called Lights of Love. Nothing new. And with us here in the studio is Jane Adair and Gene Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, you're welcome. Your PR person was very adamant to make sure that you guys were here today.
Right. She said for us to have a good time, and that's what we're going to do.
We hope we can do that. Let's talk about the Century 20th Club for just a few seconds and tell us about it and how it got started. And it's an older organization, isn't it?
Well, actually, it's about 114 years old. Now, don't get me wrong. Gene and I haven't been here that long, but it was in 1901, started in 1901. And we have many different projects, some international partnerships, some at the state level, and many at the local level. Mm-hmm. But it's our desire to do volunteer work to help make our community a better place.
That's all I was going to ask that. It was formed in 1901, but what was the premise for, I mean, that's what they wanted to do, was to give back? I mean, or was it for a specific cause? Is what?
Strictly volunteer service in the community. And it was in 1903 that the club purchased 10 acres north of Harrison, and this was the beginning of Maplewood Cemetery. Wow. And then acreage has been added through the years. And we love coming and talking about the Lights of Love because it's one of our most anticipated events. We hope to involve as many people in the community as possible. We involve volunteer groups. I want to say the dates, and we may say them again, but December the 5th, it's the first Saturday in December, and we do pray for good weather. That if we happen to have the rain and the wind or snow and ice, then it will be December the 12th.
Okay, and that's happened before, so you can't
It
predict the
definitely
weather.
has happened. In fact, one year we did not get to have it at all.
Yeah.
But we invite people from the community to come by from 1 to 4 at the main entrance to pick up the luminaries. And Jean's going to have more information about that.
Okay.
And then they may come back. They're lighted about dusk, and people may come back and drive through the cemetery. And it is just absolutely gorgeous when the sun goes down and the lights start showing. It is really a beautiful experience and a beautiful way to remember loved ones or friends. You know, we're a very mobile society, and so we have people who are at the cemetery, the burial sites, who do not have family members that are still living here. So we would also invite people as they pick up for their own family, that if they have friends and they know there's nobody here to remember them, it would be a big help to us if they would pick up additional sacks and help place them at the grave sites.
Now, how does that work? Do you have someone that you'd like to be in memory, and then do you put their name on, or how's that work?
No,
There's
you just
none of that.
pick up the luminary and take it and place it on the tombstone.
Okay, all right.
And that's what they do. There's, and Jean's going to go into this also, but there's no cost for the luminaries. It is strictly a volunteer donation if they wish.
Okay.
Well, Jane's done a great job of covering so many of the details. I'm not sure she made plain, but I will, that our club is charged with the oversight and the care of the cemeteries. Now that includes Maplewood, Maple Leaf, and Rose Hill. This year especially, we're going to make a concerted effort to decorate the graves at Rose Hill. Rose Hill is our oldest and probably the least visited, and yet it's a nice old cemetery, and sometimes you'll see family names that you maybe had forgotten about. As Jane mentioned, it's simply a memorial at the holiday season to remember our friends and relatives who are buried up there. I grew up on South Pine Street, and I often see names up there that were my neighbors when I was a young girl, and I love to take a sack along and put it on their cemetery. As Jane said, simply come to the main gate and come by, and we'll be standing there. We'll start about 11 o'clock. Or 10 or 11 filling those. We simply put some sand in a sack, in a white sack, and include a votive candle. Then later in the day, others of our group and civic people come by and help us light those. And it's beautiful to drive through, and you can view them. You can pick up your sacks around 1 o'clock, and after they're lit about dusk, they can be viewed till about 8:30. So we invite the community to come by and get the sacks and look at them.
Now, all this is free. We want to let people know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No charge for the sacks. We do accept donations, and the donations that we receive will be used for the restoration and preservation of the trees.
Will there be a receptacle somewhere where people can donate?
Yes, there will be.
Okay, so they can drive through and notice that.
Certainly.
The other things that you do throughout the year to raise money to keep your organization going, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we have an international dinner that's usually in the spring.
Okay.
And I might like to share with you some of the projects that we have done with the funds that were donated at Lights of Love. We have a part-time caretaker that we hire to help with mulching, weeding, and watering the trees, the new trees that need to be watered. And almost every year we purchase trees for planting. Now, everything that we do for the cemetery, I might go back to in the early years, some of the ladies, they were responsible for everything about the cemetery, maintenance and beautification. But in the 30s, the cemetery was given to the city. And so now we work with the city cemetery committee, and with the sale of lots, there is a cemetery perpetual fund that cemetery committee oversees, and that takes care of the mowing and major maintenance, such as after an ice storm, removing dead trees or removing dead limbs and so forth, and that's under the direction of the city. And so we have our own club fund that's used for tree restoration and beautification. But everything we do is in cooperation with the city cemetery committee and with their permission. And if an individual wants to plant a tree at the cemetery, they need to go through that city cemetery, the supervisor there, and he will know where a tree needs to be planted.
Right.
An individual can't just go up there and plant a tree wherever they want to. But now some of the things that we've purchased in the last few years is many trees. In the spring, we planted 8 new trees. We bought for planting 8 new trees, and we always try to buy from local businesses because we want to support the local businesses. And then 8 maple trees in the fall. And if you've noticed down by the bypass, there's a rock and metal sign that gives direction to Maplewood Cemetery. That was done with funds. Cemetery block markers. Each of the blocks have those tall black markers. We've put a new roof on the chapel in recent years and other repair to the chapel. And then we also work with other groups like Scouts who are working on their Eagle Scout, and we've had at least 2 of those, and we buy the materials for them and they do the work. So it varies from year to year how we use the funds, but those are some of the things that we've done in recent years. And she mentioned Rose Hill. It actually qualifies to be on the historical register because there are enough burial plots that are older than 50 years. 50% has to be over 50 years old. And so the City Cemetery Committee, along with some of the help from the club members doing some research, are trying to get that done.
Okay. All right.
So-
Wonderful.
Jean, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to say that I'm sure, Dan and Ann, that you are acquainted with the fact that Maplewood Cemetery is a showplace. We have lots of tourists who come visit the cemetery. I was up there last year, and a bus was unloading, and I just really hadn't thought about a bus coming through there. I knew that a lot of people did make that journey, but the trees up there are just gorgeous in the fall. They're well worth your time, and I wasn't sure the listening public knew that, but do go through them in the fall, in October and early November, and they're beautiful.
They are beautiful, that's true.
Let's go back to the Lights of Love one more time. If someone has been tuning in and wants to know what this interview is all about, they can get their luminaries. Again, talk a little bit about that time and how they can get them.
Yes, the date is December the 5th, the first Saturday in December. The rain date would be December the 12th.
Okay.
But they may go to the main entrance at Maplewood Cemetery to pick up the luminaries between 1 and 4 p.m. No cost, but donations are welcome. And then drive through that evening after sundown and after dusk to do the viewing. And if there's someone in the community that is not able to get out, but they would like to have a luminary placed, I would certainly invite them to call me.
Okay.
And I will make sure that they get a luminary.
Okay.
And my number, and they can leave a message if they would like, is 741-5961.
Okay.
And if there's someone in the community who would like to make a donation, but they're going to be out of town this weekend or whatever, it could be sent to Kathleen Mullen Mullen at 1511 West Park Avenue in Harrison.
Okay.
And I would like to mention that we count on lots of volunteers. The service clubs, Kiwanis, Lions, and Rotary, they help us put the luminaries together.
And then clean up afterwards, too.
We have
Yeah.
Boy Scouts that help with lighting, and one troop comes back on Sunday and helps clean up.
Okay.
And we have groups from the college, PBL, and a couple of groups from the high school,
Okay.
FBLA, and so key clubs from Valley Springs and Harrison and Bergman.
Volunteers.
So,
Now, the
yes.
number that we have on the screen is Mary Spee's number. Is it okay
Yes.
for people to call her? I mean, they'll probably call
Yes.
her
Any
thinking it's
questions
you,
or-
but it's okay to call her. She can relay the messages to
That's
you.
fine.
Okay.
He's our chairman this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Of
Good.
Lights of
Yes,
Love.
yes.
All right.
And her committee, we just couldn't do it without all their planning in advance. It's Sue Tennyson, Kathleen Mullen, Lana Springer, Pat Kennedy, Marilyn Beard, Charlotte Parker, Kathy Wilburn, and Carlene Morris.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
great committee. We appreciate them so much.
Again, that's December the 5th.
Fifth.
Yes.
Come by between 1 and 4, pick up your luminaries at Maplewood Cemetery, and
That's correct.
you can put them on the proper place that you want to put them during that, and go out and check it out. Everybody's invited, if they don't have a luminary, to come out and drive through and
Absolutely.
see what it
Yes.
looks like. Thank you all very
Thank
much for
you.
being here.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Up next, we're going to be talking with Kathy Wilburn and Jon Burnside, and they're going to be talking about the Angel Tree program and some other things. Stay with us.